I missed the first half.
Oh, okay. Welcome, everyone. Wednesday night Halacha and Chassidus. And the Halacha seems to be getting longer and longer every week. So last week we didn't finish it, not intentionally, it just ended up that way. So we're going to continue tonight. The discussion we started last week. So this will be part 2 of 2, I think. Part 2 of 2 of the topic of borrowing a Tallis. We're not talking about the issue of do you recite a bracha if you borrow someone's Tallis? Or do you recite a bracha if you borrow the Tallis that belongs to nobody, i.e. that belongs to the shul? You get an aliyah and you need to wear a Tallis, let's say. Or you're the chazan in shul, you need to wear a Tallis. You have to say a bracha on that Tallis. Or if you're at a bris and someone calls you up for an honor and you turn to the guy next to you, oh, can I just borrow your Tallis for a minute? I want to go say this bracha or whatever it is at the bris. Do you say a bracha on that Tallis? That's not tough tonight.
And then does he have to say a bracha when he puts it back on?
That's less of a question, probably, but okay, everything's a question.
Does he have to have in mind?
Yeah.
Also, I think for our discussion, we're really focusing more on like you're borrowing a Tallis sometimes that's not yours. And so nobody's there. So you're taking it out of his Tallis bag and you're putting it on and you're putting it back.
Correct. So that's the topic tonight, continuing from last week, is you come into shul and I forgot my Tallis at home. I don't have time to go home because I gotta go to work after that. There's no time to go home. But Chaim, whose Tallis and Tefillin is in the one next to me, he always davens the later minyan. I'm sure he won't mind if I use his Tallis and Tefillin. The question is that accurate halachically?
Right.
Can you actually assume the person won't mind? So we introduced last week, didn't really introduce it. I think people are familiar with the concept already, probably, that a person in general, we can assume, will appreciate it. If you use their possessions, which have monetary value, if you'll use their possessions to do a mitzvah, we can assume they're going to appreciate it. However, to what point are they going to appreciate it? Will they appreciate it across the board? Oh, take my Tallis, no problem. Yeah, you could use it. Is that the case? Or maybe there are certain limitations on how willing someone is to let others use their possessions for a mitzvah. So we're going to start, I believe, with source number 8, which is the Aruch HaShulchan. Generally, the Aruch HaShulchan is a very gishmak sefer. We've read some pieces from the Aruch HaShulchan before. And what he basically does, if you take a siman in the Aruch HaShulchan, he basically goes through the entire sugya. He'll start from the Gemara, go through the Tur and the Beis Yosef, he'll go through all the major Rishonim, the major players, whatever the sugya is, and kind of chazer up the whole sugya for you. So very gishmaka place to turn either b'chlal to enhance your understanding of the sugya. He's not just chazering the sugya. He also has his own piskei dinim and so forth. Some of which I think are relied upon, some of which not necessarily, and maybe it depends on the circles. I don't think really people really paskin by the Aruch HaShulchan per se nowadays in the Mishnah Brura. Typically, in most circles, what people go by. Of course, in Chabad, we follow the Alter Rebbe. But let's start with Aruch HaShulchan, and he's going to chazer for us the sugya basically. So that would be a review for us of what we spoke about last week, and then we'll go. We did the Mishnah Berurah source 9 already. We started the Alter Rebbe a little bit, but we'll do more of the Alter Rebbe tonight as well, and we'll see how much time we have to go weiter in the sugya. So again, can you borrow someone's Tallis and Tefillin? Can you borrow their Tallis without their permission? Can you borrow their Tefillin without their permission? Can you borrow their Siddur without their permission? Can you borrow their Gemara without their permission? Etc., etc. That is the topic. So we'll take a look at source number 8, Aruch HaShulchan. And again, we've looked at Aruch HaShulchan numerous times already. 1829, he was born, passed away 1988. I almost said 1988. No, 1908. Passed away in Lithuania. Averich, a Gor Choshev Rav. It doesn't need me to say that. Chil Michal Epstein. Kosvu Atur. And this is in Siman Yud Daled, which is Hilchos Tzitzis. That's kind of how we got to this whole sugya. This whole discussion about borrowing other people's possessions, their tzitzis, their siddur, whatever it may be, tefillin, is in Siman Yud Daled, which is Hilchos Tzitzis. Kosvu Atur Shulchan Aruch Siv Daled. So the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch write, you're permitted to take To borrow without permission, it means, right? If it's with permission, obviously. You're permitted to borrow the guy's tallis in shul, take his tallis and say a bracha on it. And again, we're not discussing the bracha aspect of it tonight. Provided that you fulfill certain conditions in doing so, which are ubilvad sheyakapel oisa imotza mekupelis ad kan l'shonim. You got to fold it back. Got to fold it. If it was folded nicely in his tallis bag, you can't just stuff it back in. Fold it.
Not for Shabbos.
We saw in source number 9 last week, the Mishnah Brewer Shekapeloi saw. We have a question. Do you have to fold it exactly on the line, on the creases? Forget Shabbos for 1 second. You have to fold it on the creases or just fold it. So the Mishnah Brewer Paskins in source number 9, Kipula Rishon. You have to put it back exactly as you found it, fix it properly, exactly on the creases. But Uve Shabbos, says the Mishnah Berurah, exactly your point. You should fold it, he says. So he's going according to the lenient opinion that allows you to fold the tallis on Shabbos, but not along the original creases. That's maybe a separate issue, which we had a class on that. The Mogen Avram he brings, the Mishnah Berurah says the Mogen Avram brings, he's mekel b'Shabbos, shaloi lakapel klal. You don't have to fold it at all. That's what the Mishnah Berurah brings. So according to Mishnah Berurah, you should fold it and you have to fold it exactly as the creases originally were. However, in the Alter Rebbe source number 10, where was it? In the second paragraph of that, it was not actually the second paragraph. It looks like a second paragraph in source number 10, the paragraph that begins Ella. At the end of the second line, third last word at the end of the second line here, disagrees with the Mishnah Berurah. You don't, well, he's before the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah disagrees with him. You do not have to fold it exactly on the creases. Okay, back to the Aruch HaShulchan. So, Kosvu Ator B'Shulchan Aruch Sivdal Demut Little Talis Chavere Ulevorech Alea Uvovan Shekapelis Al Imotza Mekupel Tarkan L'Shem. So the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch both say clearly you could borrow the person's towels without their permission, provided that you fold it, put it back the way you found it.
You know the person was, let's say, Makbir, a Germaphobe or something, like.
So the Ben Ish Chai brought, we had last week in source number 7, the Ben Ish Chai says, Bisman Hazeh, in this day and age today, Bisman Hazeh, by the way, the Ben Ish Chai was born in 1832 and died in 1909. So in his day and age, already the 1800s, early 1900s, Chazinan, we see Ruba de Alma Kapti. Most people are makbid. How do you translate they are makbid? They it's not really particular. Thank you. They are particular. I don't want you wearing my tallis. I don't want you wearing my tefillin. It's a whole separate discussion. I was thinking about maybe there's another group. There's a whole shaila. If you change the size of the head tefillin, you borrow something to change the size of the head tefillin. Now he's gonna have to change back the knot to fit his size of his head. That is a raya that the knot is not a permanent knot. So he wants to say, so maybe the tefillin are not tefillin either. If the knot is not a permanent knot, we have a problem with tefillin. And it's a separate question. But okay. So the Ben Ish Chai says, Bisman as in nowadays, I don't want you borrowing my tallis, buddy. Nice guy, keep your hands up. Nice guy, keep your hands off my tallis.
Yeah.
So, and listen to this though. Do not take the towels and tefillin that belong to someone else, even if the shamish or the shul tells you, no, Chaim doesn't mind. Don't do it. Unless you know, unless he knows with certainty that the owner is not particular about it. However, the ankle of the Shabbos is but who's makbid and who's not makbid, who's particular, not particular. Now listen to this. Here's the pièce that is a stance in the Ben Ish Chai. Aloy gama noichi makir ba'atzmi. I know myself, he says. I'm one of those people. The honor me inches the kapti bozeh. I'm one of those people that's makbid. Okay, it reminded me of a story about Alter Rebbe that I don't know if we have time for. So maybe let's go back to the Aruch HaShulchan.
All right, no way.
Let's go back to the Aruch HaShulchan. The third line, Mishum Davadi Nechel Nishmet B'mitzvah B'milmor. So the Aruch HaShulchan explains what's the reason, bringing from the Torah to make up the reason, it's quoting from the Torah. What's the reason that we permit you to borrow someone's talis without their permission? Simple. People will appreciate it. Oh, you used my talis? Baruch Hashem. I'm very happy you used my talis. Oh, you put on my tefillin? Baruch Hashem. You did a mitzvah with my property? Great. We assume people like that. So therefore, we say you can take the talis, even if you don't have, you don't need his permission. His permission is effectively granted in advance. V'roten balatalis bekach v'loy kopid is not going to be makpid, unlike the Aruch HaShulchan, who says people are makpid. I'm sorry, unlike the Ben Ish Chai, Aruch HaShulchan says no, people not makpid. V'lochin iyodin and the gavra the kabdonu. If we know that the guy is taka very particular, then obviously what's the halacha? You obviously cannot take a talis. Obviously, also you're not allowed to take it. Now, here's very interesting. I mean, everything's interesting, but it says that it seems to me as follows. Even though we have this psak din from the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch that you're allowed to take someone's talis and use it for a mitzvah without their permission. The even though this is a givaldic thing he says here, even though the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch paskin that you're allowed to take the guy's talis, why? People like it if you do a mitzvah. However, Zok the Aruch HaShulchan. Here sounds similar now to the Ben Ish Chai. Anan Chazina. We see it seems apparent nowadays. The harbe makpidim bozeh mo'oid. Many people are actually very particular. I don't want you wearing my talis. I don't want you putting on my tefillin. Get your own tefillin. Get your own talis, right? Go back home. Why'd you come to shul without your tefillin? Ubefrat, and especially, listen, this is very interesting. Kshat hu chodosh v'noki. His talis is new, crisp, clean. Or someone I think asked me last week, I don't know if it was during this year or afterwards, what about a Shabbos talis? Which you only wear once a week, and usually the Shabbos talis stays nicer. Sometimes people even spend more money. They buy a fancier Shabbos talis. Many people have the silver atara on it, or whatever it may be, a more gishmaka talis. So he says, if it's chodesh v'naki, new and clean, for sure you can't wear the talis without his permission. He will be maki. You're going to schwitz. It's a heat wave, especially. Then with Bachshim with air conditioning.
They makpid to put it over your head. Right?
Yeah, they didn't have air conditioning back then either. It's like when you go to Zikr Moshe in Yerushalayim, even though the air conditioning is blowing, it's still boiling hot. You're still schwitzing crazy there, right? But furthermore, also some people, I'm an istinus, a little bit, finicky a little bit. If you're going to wear my talis, you're schwitzing. It's hot. What's going to happen? He says, "Mitam zeya v'nikius." Maybe you're a germaphobe, whatever. Now I got back my talis. It's wet. You gave me back a wet talis. What is this business? You're schwitzing. You can schwitz on your own talis. You're schwitzing my talis for, you know. V'nirli asdaiti shema'od yesli shash lichis yashib b'din zeh. It's not so posh. Even though the Shulchan Aruch passes clearly, you could take the talis. It's not so posh. Not so posh at all.
Yeshlis Yashir means what?
We have to figure this out.
Why are we more makpid?
He's effectively saying, I know the Shulchan Aruch says it's okay. But it's not. It's kind of what he's saying, right? I know the
times have changed. Like
you say
people are a lot less makpid then than they are
but
today.
still, it's not so posh to just like, I disagree with the Shulchan Aruch. Who are you? What do you mean you disagree with the Shulchan Aruch? Who are you? So he's saying, yes, we have to work this out.
I mean, the whole thing is based on a svara that the guy is going to want him to do, use it.
Correct.
Right, and it's also that the person isn't even aware that you're taking it. So one thing, person is aware, just candidates.
Tell
The
no.
person's not aware.
But I'm just saying, it's one thing if the person is aware of it.
So eventually find out.
When he's not, the person is not aware,
Exactly.
it's the greater license, it's the greater,
There's no
that you're gonna offend the person.
Yeah. That's the Aruch HaShulchan.
And
the Ben Ish
it
Chai.
is a beggar, it is, a beggar, so
Right.
people are gonna be sensitive
Right.
about a beggar.
Right. Let's take a look now at the Rebbe source 10. Sif Tess, and again, this is Simon Yud Dalet, right at the beginning of Shulchan Aruch. This is all going to be very familiar already. especially from last week and even from today, from reading the Aruch HaShulchan right above. You're allowed to put on your friend's tallis without his permission, just like the Shulchan Aruch says. That's not considered, right? Usually when you borrow something without permission, that's actually called stealing. This is not stealing, he says. Why? We don't have a concern of damaging it, basically. There's no concern of that. Why? How long did you daven for already? Don't answer that question. You wear it whatever. Shachris not so long. You wear tallis, and then you go, you fold, and you put it back. Says we're not worried that you're going to ruin the guy's. What are you going to tear it in half? What are you going to do to his tallis already? You can wear the tallis. You're not going to destroy his tallis.
But it could be draped on the floor. You can get it dirty. Again, we're talking about times where
You're right. Right.
Floors 100 years
Which
ago
is
might
Bichlal,
not
by
have
the
been
way.
as immaculate as they are today.
I notice this a lot, by the way, Bichlal. You see many people sometimes, the towels are schlepping on the ground.
Yeah.
It's a clear problem from the Aruch to have the towels dragging on the ground. I'm not saying it's the sky's going to fall, but the towel, the tzitzit should not be dragging on the ground. Sometimes you see people almost like intentionally they want to have the towel. I don't know. I'm sure there's a limit schos, but the tzitzit is not meant to drag on the ground. But yeah, okay. But he says, how long is Shachris already? Don't answer that question. How long are you davening for? It's not so long. And then what do you do after you're done davening? Obviously. You put it back. Don't worry. You're not like the guy who borrowed the ArtScroll Gemara from the shul and didn't put it back. No, you put it back. And therefore, interesting, author writes. People appreciate that you use their property to do a mitzvah, provided that there's no chisar kis. They're not going to incur a financial loss as a result. So yeah, if you tear their tallis or drop it in the mud outside a shul, yeah. I don't know. Now I have a chisar kis, not to take it to the dry cleaners, whatever. Now it's Ella. Rather, but however, another caveat, and we saw this already in Aruch HaShulchan and other places. If the tallis is folded when you take it, all you have to fold it. I don't know why he says all of. After taking, you got to fold it back. Because if you don't fold it, obviously the owner is going to say, "Hey, you couldn't even put my tallis back the way you found it. Didn't your mother teach you to put things back the way you find them?" Then for sure he's going to be makpid. And what happens if he's makpid? Now you borrowed it without his permission. And what's that called? Stealing. You can't do that. Now, in this piece we already saw, you do not need to fold it exactly back on the creases. Alter Rebbe is not worried about that, as long as you just fold it. Like a mensch, don't crumble it, fold it, and that's okay. And I mentioned last week that of the many, many times I've lent out either my own tallis or other talisim from the Chabad house, I don't think anyone has ever folded it on the creases. They just fold it and put it back. People in general seem to not be makpid on folding it on the creases. Just my personal, I'm not saying that it's a halacha, just my personal.
When you only let it on Shabbos?
No, I'm Chabad. People borrow talisim and fill it in these things happen.
Oh, just in general, in the places that haven't done it.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, your Shabbos point is also correct. You do not need to fold the original creases. And now to your point, Yona, so it goes like the Magen Avram here. You don't have to fold it at all. Because Shabbos, even though we had a whole class on this once, are you allowed to fold the towels on Shabbos? There's definitely a had to do it, but seems like it might be better not to fold your towels on Shabbos. That was our conclusion when we had this year, even though there's definitely what to rely upon if you do fold the towels on Shabbos, but not on the original creases. But here the Alter Rebbe clearly goes, you don't have to fold it on Shabbos. Yud. Very important. You're only allowed to borrow Chaim's tallis once in a while. Don't make a habit out of it. Remember what it was saying in the previous sif? The heter, the Alter Rebbe is explaining it. The heter is because you're only wearing it for a short period of time, a short amount of time. And what are you going to do with it in the 20 minutes or however long it takes you to daven Shacharis anyway? So the whole heter is built, the Alter Rebbe is now illuminating our understanding of this a little bit. The whole heter is built on the fact that you're not going to damage it because you're wearing it one time. However, if you want to wear it, avol, b'kivius, what do you think you're going to do now? Oh, you know what? Why should I schlep my talis and fill the shul every day? It's heavy, then I have nowhere to put it afterwards, I have to go to work. I'll just, I know he's always late to shul. I'll use Chaim's talis. Every day. No. Osir, says the Alter Rebbe. That is forbidden. It is forbidden to use these things every day. Why? Because Shema Yakpi Balatalis, because now he's for sure going to knock it. I don't mind. Listen, I don't mind if you borrow my car once in a while. What, all of a sudden every day now? You want my car, you want my towels every day? Well, soon you're going to move into my house. What do you want from me already? But feel be crying, even when we do permit you, says the Alter Rebbe, to borrow the talis from time to time, don't make a habit out of it. You're only allowed to put it on right there where he left his talis. You can't take it to another shul. You can't take it home. Right here in the shul where he left it, that's where you're allowed to put it on. You cannot take it from shul and go, I'm just going to daven at home quickly because I'm late. And no, can't do that. Or the opposite. What if you find his talis in his house? Why you're in his house? I don't know, but I want to go to shul because I'm a very religious person. I want to daven in shul with a minion. Too bad, buddy. You cannot remove his talis from where he left it. Or even if you say, no, I'm going to return it later. No. Even I'm going to come back later. I'm going to put it back in your cubby in the shul. Don't worry. No. Also, you're not allowed to do that. Because to that extent, I don't appreciate. The owner won't appreciate that you're taking is that you're moving it somewhere else. You want to use my talis? Okay. I don't mind if you use my talis. Again, number one, don't make a habit out of it. Get your own talis. And number two, you could like in shul near my cubby and put it back where you found it. That's talis. And tefillah, the Shulchan Aruch said, we saw it was the Ramah, if I recall correctly. Yeah, the Ramah in source number 4. Let's just go back to the Shulchan Aruch and let's try to anchor it back in the Shulchan Aruch just for a minute. Mutter and source number 4 on the first page. Mutter little talis chaveru levorach aleh, says the Shulchan Aruch, the Machaber, that you're allowed to take talis and say a bracha ubaban shekapel so gam it's gam im matzah mekupelas, provided that you fold it back to where you found it. Says the Ramah, v'hu hadin b'tefillin. Same thing with tefillin. Avol, says the Ramah, also lumen is foreign shachaveru v'leitad. You're not allowed to use his svarim. Why? The Chassidus were concerned you're going to tear the pages when you're learning. You get so excited, such a gishmak gemara, and you tear the pages. Now you ruined the sefer. That's not very nice. But let's take a look at the Alter Rebbe now. Back to the Alter Rebbe Source 10. Yud Gimel Svarim Shel Chaveru. Also, Lulmay Behenshel Midaitoi. You're not allowed to. You learn from the Svarim if the person doesn't know, if the owner doesn't know. Afilu Beikroi Ba'alma, even on a one-off basis. Why? Mishum, the Balas Forum Choshen Shem Yikra Behen Harbe, because the owner of the sefer is worried you're going to get, you're going to make a habit, you're going to read so much in the sefer, you're going to get so excited learning the Rashi and the Gemara and the Taisus and everything, so excited. The person turning the pages so much, using it so much, it's going to tear the page. Swarm, of course, were not so easy to come by.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 250 years ago.
Much different. Yeah.
Very different. When we say sefer, if I would lose this, God forbid, or I could go buy a new one. It's not a big deal. 250 years ago, you had a sefer. Lucky you. So remember, that's what he's talking about here.
Yeah, but nowadays.
One second. Yeah, one second. Uvishvil kach is not. Let's just read the conclusion of the Rebbe. Uvishvil kach loy nechalei shulam behem klum. So the owner actually doesn't want you using a farm at all. I want to have my Gemara. If you're going to use my Gemara, you're going to ruin it. Then where am I getting the 10 rubles to buy a new one? And even if I have the 10 rubles, which farm store? Where do I get it from?
Mm-hmm.
So not allowed to learn from the farm. And it's a whole interesting shaila. We don't have time for time. But if you leave a sefer by a Talmid Chacham, is he allowed to learn it? It's the whole
What
interest.
does it mean if you leave it?
Like I have my safe, I say, Yona, I gotta go out and I gotta go get my kid from Shio. I'm gonna leave my safer here. And you're a Talmud Chacham, and you're like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of learning over here. Are you allowed to learn it? That's the question, but that's a whole other subject. Let's say the Piskei Teshuvos, source number 11. We've brought Piskei Teshuvos many times. A Rav, a modern day Rav, who brings interesting shilas. The Piskei Teshuvos goes according to the order of the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah specifically. Look what he says about Svarim. And I don't think we're gonna have time for source 12 and 13, but okay. But maybe I'll say some of them outside. Misfarim, you're not allowed to learn from the Sfarim, the Shulchan Aruch said. Omnam, says the Bishul, the Maisa Nida, it seems practically speaking nowadays, and again, this is a contemporary halacha sefer. She'en kapedas ha-Shulchan Aruch v'apoiskim elo b'zmaneim, shaloi hayal defus motzu. The whole kapeda, the whole concern, not the prohibition not to learn from someone's sefer was bizmanei. Was in the times of the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch was already 500 years ago. The Alter of the Shulchan Aruch is something like 250 years ago. Where do you get a printing house? It wasn't so easy to get a sefer. But nowadays, a few dollars. How much is a machzer already? How much is a new sefer? The capital. So nobody's makbid about this. Maybe, by the way, if the person has it as a special leather-bound siddur, that's their siddur, a special siddur or something. Maybe that's different. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not so simple to use his special siddur. I don't know. Any person's private svarim, or if you left it in a public place, that itself is an indication you don't mind someone learns from it. If the person left their Gemara in shul, you can assume, even though it may not actually be true, but you can assume that they left it there full well knowing that someone else is going to come along and Daf, you only I'm talking learning I'm learning Avodah Zarah now. I want to open it, right? So there's one definitely Avodah Zarah, right? That's what everyone's joking. Where's my Avodah Zarah? Who wants to do Avodah Zarah? Chas v'shalom. So you can assume if they left their safe in a public place, they know someone's going to use it. Because they know Svarim are not expensive. So by the very fact they left it in shul in a public location is as if they said, hey, I don't mind if you use my safe.
Put it back in the same place.
Put it back in the same place. Well, that should apply just the same, right?
Yeah.
For sure. And he says even further, presumably they left it there intentionally. However, now here we have another caveat. But even this heter is just
Once number.
yeah. Don't show up every single night for your Gemara shir and use the other guy's Gemara. That's not love. Unless you know that they gave it to the shul for that very purpose. Or if he told you, if he tells you, oh, listen, I don't mind using my Gemara, then it's fine. Now he goes on to say that even though we say you're permitted to use the Svarim or the Tallis, whatever it may be, if you damage it, then you also have to pay for it. Sefer Chassidim, it's a little bit late already, but Yehuda Chassid, he was born 1150, died 1217. Maisa b'Chassid Echad Shemeis. There was a certain Chassid, doesn't mean a Chassid as we use it nowadays, it means a certain pious individual. So the 1100s. He died, passed away. Svarim Harbin. He had a large library. Bo'u Yershav Mocher Kol Svarav. So his heirs came. They sold his farm. They didn't care to keep their father's farm. They didn't care. Sell it on eBay. Facebook Marketplace. We're getting rid of this stuff. We don't need it. With Tzaddikim Hoyu Misanchim Ala Yorshim. There were some individuals there, some more righteous people. I can't believe he just sold all this farm. Father had this large land. It's like, that's it? You don't care? Just let this farm go? They sold their father's farm. Don't you want your father's farm? There was one wise man there. He said, Omar, don't sigh or don't bemoan it. Don't bemoan what happened. This is very. I'll tell you what sin led to the svarim of the father after he passed not remaining in his family. There's a sin caused it, he says. Ki lo yoya mashal sefer levnei adam. He said that he never lent a sefer to anybody. He didn't allow other people to use his svarim. Ki hoyoimer used to say, "Ani zoking, I'm an old man. Vim yitash to some yunim talking, and you're going to use my sefer. The ink is going to get smudged or whatever. Nowadays, the ink in the sefer doesn't smudge. Maybe back then it's going to get hard for me to see. I won't be able to see. I won't be able to learn from my sefer anymore. So it says the sefer, don't have this approach to life. Don't say if someone else uses my sefer, it'll get damaged. I won't be able to read from it. Don't say that. He says it's a good thing that someone else should learn from your svarim, even if even if it will be erased as a result, meaning the sefer will be damaged and you'll have a hard time reading through it. Rather than the svarim are off locked up in a cabinet somewhere, I have my svarim. Nobody touches my svarim. It's better that your svarim should be damaged and tattered and used, but rather than have them locked up and nobody uses them. Yeah.
Obviously, George weren't planning to use them, so better to sell them to someone who would use it.
Interesting. The Sefer Chassidus says that there was an oven, there was a sin that happened.
Right.
You should have your father's svarim. It's interesting. It's not halacha.
Mhm.
You have another piece. I'll just sum up more or less what it says. Basically, there was a chassid, not a Lubavitcher. I think it was a since she came to the Rebbe. There was a minute by Lubavitch. The Rebbe would lend out his lulav and esrog, and people would wait in line for hours to bench on the Rebbe's lulav and esrog. And someone asked the Rebbe, by doing so, all the hands that are touching your esrog, it's no longer pre-Eitz Hadar. It's no longer muhudar. It's no longer beautiful esrog because the oils from people's skin and your esrog is brown. You see the pictures. The esrog is much brown by the end. So many chassidim waiting hours and hours to bench on the Rebbe's lulav and esrog. The esrog was not so gishmak anymore. So what about hidur? So the Rebbe told him that ein locha hidur gadol mizeh. There's no greater hidur, no greater enhancement, no greater beautification of the mitzvah than so many yidden should do a mitzvah with my esrog. That is the hidur. The fact that it's now bruised and so forth, that's beautiful. So that relates maybe to the Sefer Chassidus. The svarim are damaged, that's beautiful. It's like, when you have little kids in the house, which I had at one point. Little babies, what do? They're learning to walk, they're learning to stand. What do? They need to hold themselves up on something, right? What do they hold themselves up? What's their level? The bookshelf. So what do with each book? They pull every single book off the shelf and then they step on them. That's the minhag of Jewish children everywhere. Pull every book off the shelf and step on them. Is that a good thing? I'm not going to say it's a good thing, but it's a good thing. The svarim are used, they're getting... Okay.
Like when Yonah comes over.
Right. So there's an Indian, and we see from Sefer Chassidus, there's an Indian that even though maybe the Sefer would be better, keep it on your shelf, let it not be damaged, let it. We have a farbrengen in honor of Tzippa's birthday upstairs. That's upstairs.
Yeah, mazel tov.
Koyach Sivan, 28th Sivan, the day the Rebbe came to America. The Rebbe and the Rebbe came to America. 28th Sivan. So even though obviously Halacha, as we saw clearly, there's what to consider. If we're going to be borrowing something's Tallis, let's fill in safer. There's definitely what to consider. But amongst Siddish Yidden, I'm okay if you use my sefer. I'm okay if you use my Tallis and fill, no problem. In fact, to the contrary, I want you to use my Tallis and fill. I want you to use my svarim. Even if you damage the sefer, halachically, maybe the person's going to have to compensate me for the cost of the sefer. Fine, we saw the Pesach Shabbos. However, especially in light of the Sefer Chassidus, let the svarim be damaged. It's okay. Learn from them. Questions, comments? Okay, so moving right
A
along.
lot of questions and comments, but then we
A lot of questions and comments. Okay, good. I'm glad you have a lot of questions and comments. Let's take a look at this letter from the Rebbe. I didn't print the whole letter. It's a little bit of a long letter. I just printed part of it. It's 1950. The letter was written by the Rebbe in 1950. So this letter was actually written before the Rebbe had officially accepted his position as Rebbe, but it was already after the passing of the previous Rebbe. So was in the year interim after the previous Rebbe passed away, and 1 year later, the winter of 1951, when the Rebbe formally accepted the leadership of Chabad. So this letter was written in that interim period. And again, it's a relatively long letter. So I chose a piece that I wanted to share with you, to discuss a little bit tonight. And the reason I shared the piece is because Sunday, Motzei Shabbos Sunday, is Gimel Tammuz, is the Rebbe's Yortzeit. And we're Zoicha to live in the borough of the Rebbe. The Rebbe, of course, the Tzion, the gravesite of the Rebbe is in Queens. That's why it's a great borough, obviously. And we're Zoicha to live quite close. And it's very easy to get there. And so especially Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe's Yortzeit, is an auspicious time to visit the Rebbe's kever. If you've never been or if you have been, people ask me, will it be crowded? The answer is yes, it'll be crowded. It's okay. It's worth it. Anyway, they have security there that they didn't used to be that way. Now the security, they push, they don't give you time. Whatever, they push you in and out. So, but it's kedai to go. If you can't go on Motzei Shabbos or Sunday, okay, you can go Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You could go in besmichus, in close approximation to the yard site, but certainly on the day itself is very chashuv. So the topic of this letter, or I should say part of the topic, is the idea of visiting the graves of the righteous. And again, it's not the whole letter. We don't have time, maybe another time. Let's take a look. It's on page Tufton Ches. This is printed. This letter is printed in volume 3 of Igros Kodesh of the Letters of the Rebbe, which is a personal interest of mine of the Letters of the Rebbe. I spent a fair bit of time, relatively speaking, exploring the Rebbe's letters, working on a book based on letters of the Rebbe. I hope it's going to, God willing, should have a bracha, should come to fruition, God willing. But in any event, second paragraph on page Tov Nun Ches, Ma. This that you have requested in your letter to me, that I should mention you in prayer at the Tzion, means at the gravesite of Kvod Kedush Chak is Kvod Kedushas, Much is Moiri Vachami, my teacher and my father-in-law, Admur, Adoneinu Moirinu V'Rabbeinu, that means the previous Rebbe, who is my Rebbe, and he reads, Heichof Meves Hareini Kaporas Mishkovoi, because this is within a year after the passing, when it's traditional, after the passing really of a person's father, to say Hakam, Hareini Kaporas Mishkovoi, may I be an atonement for where he lays resting. Esa Kebakosho say, I'll do what you said, no problem, I'll daven for you. You also heard in your letter that even though you asked me to daven for you at the gravesite of my father-in-law, the Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, you write that you don't understand how that works. You don't understand what that's about. Even when you eat and you drink and you sleep, you don't sit down to contemplate, I'm thirsty. I'm going to drink some water, but I wonder how exactly is this water going to affect me physically? How is it going to affect me spiritually? You don't think about it. You just drink it. You know you're thirsty, so you drink. And you're going to drink anyway. You're going to eat whatever it may be, even if this fly wants to drink my water too. Even if you don't know exactly how it's going to work, how exactly does the food and the drink and the sleep replenish you, you do it anyway. And the same exact thing here with praying at the gravesite of the righteous. You don't know how it works? No, that's okay. You can do it anyway. Point number 1. Point number 2. Of this that you write further in your letter to me, that it seems a little bit questionable halachically to go to the grave of a person. And after all, at the end of the day, even the greatest tzaddik, still a human being. You're going to the grave of a human being, praying? Like, who are you praying to? What are you doing over there? What exactly are you doing? It seems a little bit, what's going on, right? It seems that as if you're speaking to the dead. God forbid, it's prohibited. Maybe you have in your mind someone else, means someone else other than God Almighty. We're Jewish, right? What are you doing? What exactly are you doing at the gravesite? So the Rebbe is interestingly, I'm assuming the Rebbe knew the person he was writing to, but you know that that's not the case. You know that's not what's happening over here. That's not what's going on. There's also, can you know, and it's been well understood and accepted that Kolev ben Yefuna, we just had last week's parsha, Rashi brings last week's parsha, and many other Tanoim and Amoraim and Tzaddikim and all generations did exactly this. And they went to the graves of the righteous and they prayed. Not to the person, not to the deceased individual, they didn't pray. That's not allowed. Prayed to God. They went to the gravesite. Yeah, hello, Kolev ben Yefuna, Tanoim, Amoraim, and many Tzaddikim do this. You know there's no issue with it. However, being that you asked, so I'll explain a little bit. Just a little bit. It's only one paragraph, very short, one paragraph. A little bit to explain, to answer, to give a little bit more of a flesh out a little bit the answer to your question. How could you go pray at the graveside of the righteous? It seems a little bit questionable, according to the person who wrote the letter. Even during the Rebbe's lifetime. Here he's speaking specifically about his Rebbe, means what we call in Chabad the previous Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe. But it would be referring to any tzaddik who passed away. Even when people came to the Rebbe to ask for a bracha when he was alive, whether it was in Europe or it was in wherever he was in Europe or whether it was in New York, nobody came to the Rebbe because of his physical being. People came to him because they knew that his neshama was something else. His neshama was something very unique and special, and that's why they came for a bracha. His body, what does his body have to do with anything? He has a body, okay, so what? Nobody came for that. It's like you hear many people say that when they met the Rebbe looked at them and had piercing blue eyes. I've heard this from so many people. But it's self-understood, the person who says it and the person who hears it, but that had nothing to do with the reason why they came to the Rebbe for a bracha. Maybe it's a nice way to phrase, it's a nice thing to say that Rebbe had blue eyes. There's nothing to do with anything. It's a physical quality that doesn't have any actual meaning per se. So when people came to the Rebbe to ask for a bracha, it had nothing to do with his physical presence. It had to do with his spiritual presence. Furthermore, that's point number one. The bracha from the Rebbe is all about his neshama. Point number two, kol inyan misa, the whole concept of death, eino shaykh ki'im beguf, only applies to the physical body. It doesn't apply to the soul. The soul never dies. There is no death by the neshama. There's only death by the body. Ki neshama hi nitzchis, the soul is eternal. Ubefrat, and especially, that's applied to anybody, but especially the neshama of a tzaddik, nishmat tzaddik, she'ena shayechas shayfa klalu chaluk gehenim, especially the neshama of a tzaddik, which has no connection, no relationship whatsoever with Gehenim. And Gehenim is not as it's thought of in Western literature and so forth. Gehenim means in Kabbalah a purification process that the neshama needs to undergo in order to ascend to the next level of Gan Eden or whatever, like we're learning in Samach Vav Shabbos afternoons. So the neshama that tzaddik is not even shaykh to Gehenim. It's very pure, or kafakela v'chulu, or any of these other spiritual purifications. It doesn't need the spiritual purifications. So therefore, harei inyan amisa ba hainu istalko. So what does it mean when we say death? The death is not actually death. The death is what he calls histalkus. We call it the histalkus of a tzaddik. Histalkus means literally to ascend, to be elevated. Pirusha, what does histalkus mean? Aliyah l'madrega nailas yoser, to ascend to a higher level. Ve'enoi korui chas v'sholom meis. We don't, God forbid, call the neshama dead. It didn't die. It ascended to a higher level. It underwent what we call histalkus, which means to be elevated to a higher level. Death, it didn't experience death. The body did. The soul did not. I think maybe she's supposed to say Kamoisha Kosa not Kama. Maybe it's Kama. Ukema Shakosa B'Zoyar, and like what it says in Zoyar, which I looked up. It says in Zoyar over here. It's a little bit small for you to read without, okay. Here. Taninon, we have learned, Zoyar says. Tzaddika, a tzaddik, a righteous individual. Afal gav dispater mehaya alma, even though ispatar, patira, even though he had a patira. What's patira mean? Died. Even though he passed from this world, loy istalik v'loy isavid mikulhu almin, he did not actually depart from all the worlds. He's still here. He's still in the worlds. Daha b'chulu almin ishtakil yatim michayoyi. The Zohar actually says even more so. Now that Tzaddik, not only did he not depart the world when he passed away, but in fact, he's actually more present in the world than before he passed away. Because now the tzaddik is unlimited by the physical confines of his body. He doesn't, by a regular tzaddik, he's in one place at one time. Now he passed away, he's not in one place everywhere. He's not limited at all once he passes away. That's what the Zohar says. Why? The Zohar touches it out. When the tzaddik was alive physically, no, he's only in this world. He's only in New York. Ulavasar, but after means after he passes, he's in three worlds. Okay, meaning the world of Yetzirah and Bria and Atzilus. Presumably, that's what it means. I don't know. Okay, so that's the Zohar that he references over here. That the tzaddik who passes away, it's not a bad thing. It's actually in a sense a good thing because now he's even more present. He's more in the world. He's not only here, he's all over the place. He's unlimited. And again, he never died. He never died. Only the physical died. The Masha Kosev, this that you wrote, that it seems as if when a person goes to pray at the grave of a righteous, they have in mind, God forbid, someone else, God forbid, to pray to. Ask the shalom. So just to give you briefly, succinctly, Ein Hadavar Ken. That's not true. That's not what's happening. Two reasons. Number one, out. What are we asking when we daven at the grave of the righteous? We are asking that the tzaddik should intercede on our behalf. We're not praying to him. Khalila. That he should be Melitz Toiv. How do you translate that? Yeah, I don't know. He should intercede on our behalf. It's probably the correct translation. It says by Yosef Tzaddik and Paro, right? That he didn't know Ki Melitz Beinoisam. The interpreter was between them. So that's number.
Before you asking for the tzaddik should.
Hebakosha shahatzadik.
So you're asking the tzaddik
Beroiv zidkosai
to intercede
should intercede
on your behalf.
lifnei malch and lochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
So what about the meaning of speaking? It says here, so is that an meaning of medabrim? Of talking?
The question is, what does it mean?
We're saying it's not Mason, it's not because it's
Well, not Mason spiritually, Mason physically, obviously.
Right.
I mean, after all, there's halachos of available, there's halachos
but
of
in the
pura.
Zohar it says lower stalik, but we call it a stalkus.
No. Zohar said he wasn't installed from all the worlds, meaning he's not gone. He was installed from here.
Okay.
Which a little bit, I don't want to say it's a little bit hard to understand the Zohar, which is not surprising. It's hard to understand Zohar. That he said first. It says the Zohar says, "Lo yisavim mikulu almin." No. Mehai alma lo yistal. He didn't. Oh, Even though he passed from this world, he didn't depart all the world, only this world,
Right, but we call it a stalkus.
because he departed from this world. But then the Zohar says, he's actually more in all the world. So at first it seems from the Zohar, just if I'm allowed to say that I don't understand the Zohar, it seems that the Zohar is first saying that the tzaddik does depart from the world he's in, from this world. Seems to be the first thing the Zohar said. But don't worry, because he's now in the other worlds. But then the Zohar says, but he's in all the worlds. So make up your mind, did he depart from this world or not? It seems not. I don't know.
But the Rebbe is
I
definitely
don't
saying in the letter that he's not.
So is it Doirish Alamesim? No, because where is it? I lost my place here.
For the aleph in parentheses.
Yeah. Oh, Shemechavin Machshavta Luzulosa. No, the Mechavin Machshavta Luzulosa means, God forbid, you're speaking or praying or whatever it may be to this individual, this individual neshama is not even alive, and you have in mind that's God, so to speak. He says, no, you're asking this neshama of this very righteous individual, go talk to God. You've got protectia. That's what this is. Protectia. You've got protectia. Put in a good word to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Intercede on my behalf. So we're not confusing. We're not intermingling the tzaddik and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chalila. There's the tzaddik, there's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're saying, Rabbi Tzaddik, please intercede on my behalf with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If I understand correctly what they're saying here. So there's no mixing up. We're not confusing the roles, so to speak. Let's see weiter, just because we're pressed for time a little bit. Let's see weiter. Base number 2. Kavana shniya bozeh. Another point is asher kol chasidu makusher, and this relates to what we will maybe discuss this week in the Tanya Shir, Shabbos afternoon. Another reason to choose this letter here. Kavana shniya bozeh asher kol chasidu makusher. Every chasid and the person who's connected to the tzaddik, it's chassid umakusher. Okay.
So was not a card
I
carrying
don't know.
chassid.
I don't know if it's a chassid umakusher or if it's a chassid, umakusher. I don't know how to say the pshat. Meaning, is it chassid umakusher is one type of person? You're a disciple who's connected to the Rebbe, or is it a chassid, a disciple, and / or makusher, anyone else connected to the tzaddik? I'm not sure the pshat. But any event, your neshama is one prat, one detail, one point, one nekuda, however you want to phrase it, one detail in the greater neshama of the tzaddik, shehi klal gadol. It's like the idea of Adam Harishon. That Adam Harishon was this one neshama klalis who included every neshama that ever followed afterwards, which we'll also maybe discuss a little bit, God willing, the Shabbos Tanya share this week. So your neshama is a prat of the neshama of the tzaddik. Therefore, it's just that his neshama, the neshama of the tzaddik is the head. Your neshama is not the head. Maybe it's the finger. Maybe it's the arm. Whatever. Which we're going to start this week, God willing, Perek Beis Tanya. Even though every single limb of the body, every part of the body, all receive their chayis, their vitality, their energy from the neshama. However, but the neshama first and foremost is clothed, is invested in the head, in the mind. As we'll see in chapter 2, Tanya, that the godly soul, it's the place where it rests, where it dwells, if you will, is in the mind. From the brain, which works also really scientifically in a certain sense, right? The brain, their synapses firing the brain and go through the entire body, telling the rest of the body what to do. It's the nerve center. The center of the body is the brain. Everything happens from there. So too with the tzaddik. The chayis goes first to the tzaddik, and from there expands and extends to everyone else. Here it's not chassid and makusher, it's just chassid. I don't know. Same thing with the chassid and the rebbe. Asher haroish kivan shu bori, when the head is healthy, bori v'chaza, when the head is healthy and strong, yesh by kol ha'chayes asher shekol ever ve'ever. So it includes within it the hand and the foot and the heart and the toe and everything. Includes within it everything, and that's we'll see in Tanya even down to the toenails. Kadeshi yagam ever bori, and in order for each individual limb of the body to also be healthy, what do they need first and foremost? A connection to the brain. So you have to be fully connected to the reish, to the head. The sinews, the nervin, and the nerves or the veins, and everything has to be, all the veins have to be open, the blood has to be flowing, there can't be, God forbid, any obstructions. If there's an obstruction, God forbid, Khalilah. Then when all the channels are open, when everything is clean, when everything flows, then the chayas goes from the brain and it goes in a proper fashion to the rest of the body. So too, connecting to the head in a spiritual sense is strengthening the connection to your own life, to your own energy, to your own life force by being connected to the brain. This is in general the concept of the connection of a chassid to his rebbe. This is the vehicle, this is the way that a chassid gets everything he needs, both materially and materially and spiritually. Because it's like the head, it's like a person's body. God forbid, we've seen sometimes, God forbid, what happens if a person has a problem, chas v'shalom, in the brain. But when the brain is healthy, when the head is healthy, and when we're strongly and we have open channels of connection to the brain, to the head, that's how I strengthen myself. And that he says the concept of the connection of a chassid to the Rebbe. I don't have enough time, he says, or maybe it means not the time to write more at length on this topic. I hope that this is what I just wrote is sufficient. Any questions about what I wrote, please feel free to let me know. Let me know. And when I have the opportunity, I will do my best to respond to that as well. Questions or comments?
Quick question, so the preface to A and B is that you were saying that it looks like you're talking to someone else.
Yeah.
Your kavanah is to someone else. So B, bet, sounds like you're not talking to someone else. You're talking to yourself. Is that what he's saying?
I think that has a lot to do with it. That we want to, in our own mind, we want to put everything in a box. It's human nature. We like to compartmentalize. We like to know what things are. We like to define things. We like to label things. It's just human nature. Not everybody's like that, but in general, we want to know what things are. As soon as you see something new, you want to know what is it? What did I just see? What is it? Where's it from? You meet someone new comes into shul. I wonder who that person is. Maybe if you're, hopefully, even if you're a New Yorker, you go over and you say Shalom Aleichem. What's your name? Where are you from? We like to know what things are around us. We like to be able to identify things. Like with a child, right? A child everything is brand new. Everything's brand new. Every item of food is new. They never had it. This food never had that food, never had anything. Every place they go is new. Like sometimes you go with a child somewhere, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and he'll look at you and say, "This is the first time I've ever been here." Ever had that experience when your kids? It's the first time I was ever here. And you're like, yeah, I've been here. What do you mean? I was here all the time. Been here many times. But the child's new. It's fresh. So we like to, in a sense, it's human nature to divide things into where they go on the shelf, which is not wrong, but there is a certain, I think, there's a certain fallacy to that. Because really, that's almost to imply that everything is second. And since it's separate, I'll put this book on this shelf and I'll put this book on this shelf because they're separate and they belong in separate places. But again, there's a certain fallacy to that. Who says anything is separate? Who says any two people are separate? Who says the table is separate from the floor? There's a unity that pervades all of creation, certainly amongst people, and for sure amongst Eden. There's a unity that pervades everything. So in that sense, would I look at my hand and be like, this is my hand, I'm having a problem with it, but that's okay, it's just my hand. Or I would say, it's not really me. It doesn't even make sense what I'm saying, because it's not logical. No, my hand is me. My right hand is as much me as my left hand, as much me as my foot, as much me, even as my brain and my head and everything else. Really, so there's really actual unity. So in that sense, yes, the chassid, that's why he gives this mashal, I think. The chassid in the Rebbe is like your own body, your own self. You can't divide. The hand is more me than the foot. It doesn't make sense. It's all me. And if we live a holistic life, and we believe that if I strengthen myself physically, that's going to help me spiritually. If I strengthen myself spiritually, that's going to help me physically. And everything has, I read a letter from the Rebbe the other day, from someone who was having trouble getting a driver's license. And the Rebbe writes, amongst other things, the Rebbe writes that everything has a spiritual source. So it must be that this challenge has some type of spiritual obstruction of some sort. It's all comes to there's not really division. It's not, we perceive division and separation. So I think in that sense, yeah, is my head separate than my hand? It doesn't make sense. Now, technically, could a person live without their hand? Chas v'shalom? Yes, sure. I don't know if you want to live like that, but you could. Can't live without your head. Okay. Or the heart. Fine. But what's more you is your right hand, because I'm righty, so my right hand is more me than my left hand. No. Also, by the way, the right hand is not even the hand I put tefillin on. The left hand I put tefillin on, even though it's my weaker hand. So what's more me? What's more connected? It's all connected. It's all connected and interconnected. And so to Rebbe and Chassid. If I'm healthy emotionally, like, there's different ways to live, right? You could say, I have different hats that I wear. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a rabbi. I'm whatever other, or I could say, I'm not saying it's right or wrong per se, but I could say, no, I'm me. I'm me. And of that me, part of it is a father, part of it is a husband, part of it is a rabbi, etc., whatever it may be, etc., etc. Shlich the Rebbe, my greatest boast. But in many ways, if I would strengthen myself as a husband, I think, I can't prove it scientifically, that I'll also be a better father. And I'll be a better shliach. And it's all like, it all feeds into each other. I remember when I first started exercising years ago, there was, not that I'm such a tzaddik, but there was like a certain feeling of guilt. I should be doing more in my shlichus. I should be learning with more students. So first of all, not necessarily that I was going to be using that hour of exercising to learn with students anyway, but that aside, I realized quickly that that's not right. And not only is it not right, but it's exactly the opposite. The time that I would spend to take care of my physical health, myself, actually made me a better shliach, made me reach more students, connect to more students in a better way, in a deeper way. And in many other ways, and a better husband and a better father, because it's all connected. So we can compartmentalize. In many ways, I think that is our nature of the creature that we call human beings. But I don't know if that's reality. So Chassid and Rebbe is not really a separation. So we have to clear the channels to make sure that the veins are clear, that the nerves are straight, that everything is clear, everything is good, that everything is healthy. And it all flows. The blood flows through, right? It goes through the body, comes back to the heart. Ultimately, goes back to the heart, and it goes out again. You don't want to pump it with unhealthy blood, God forbid. So the healthier you are overall, the more of the full picture you see. I don't know if that's what it says in the letter. It's just something I think about a lot. This idea, I think about it a lot, but I think it fits in here. That if you are a prat of the neshama, of that other greater individual, then in a sense that's you. And I'm him and he's me, and it's all interconnected. So yeah, of course, if he's healthy, that's good for me. And if I'm healthy, that's good for him. If you think about it, even on a less mystical way, a parent and a child. If a parent has a child that's doing well, parents also happy. Why? What's the difference? It's nothing to do with you. Okay, you gave birth to them. No, it's all okay. A different person. They're separate from you. Are they? Are they actually separate?
Your child, so there's always a connection.
It's the extension.
It's an extension.
Like if there was only one piece of cake left at dessert, my kid could have it. You know why? Because the same thing as me having, maybe greater. That's a silly way to put it, but because it's not really, I don't think there's actually a separation.
This is what we learned in half the
was about to say
the
that.
mimer, right? But it was Tzaddik looking down, not really the Chassid looking up.
Yeah.
But I guess the situation is true. The matzav is a true matzav.
All right. From the Rosh Moyach, the Chayas goes lechol aver ve'aver lifnei yonai. It goes to each individual place of the body the way it needs to go. So from the brain, my hand doesn't necessarily have the same chayas, the energy, as my kidney. Because everybody's different, right? Every kid is different. Every person is there. But it gets the chayas from the same place. It's all connected to the same place. It's all coming from that nerve center, from ground control, so to speak. And look at the second last line. When the head is healthy and strong, it has now the life, the vitality, the energy for everything else. And in order now for the limb, for your hands to be healthy, it needs to be connected to the head. Why? Because it's a unit. It's not actually separation. It's all a unit. I think that's what it means. Anyway, it's I didn't realize it was so late already. But will be continued, God willing, next week, different halacha topic, Chassidus topic. I don't know what it would be. Did I just call the fly into my book?
Hopefully we got it.
Thank you everyone for coming, and Hashem, we continue.
Okay.